Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Premier League preview show from Bookmakers TV. I'm Gav from the LFC Day Trippers. To my left is Joe Wayman, Just Joe Football Show, and Jamie from Daily Hotspur as well. We're going to be here for the next 35-40 minutes, and we're going to have a little chat around what's gone on in the Premier League last weekend. European football, of course, this week for some clubs, and some fixtures towards the end of the show looking at this weekend. If you're in the chat, you're all very welcome. Any comments you have with regards to any of the topics we're talking about, throw them in there. I'll get them up on screen and we'll put them to the lads as we go. Going to go back to last weekend. I usually touch on one game from the weekend from last weekend, and I usually stay away from Liverpool because I host. I'm a Liverpool fan. I don't really want to feel like this is a Liverpool show. But Joe, I have to start with Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0, because I was at the game and it was just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. What did you make of it?
Oh, mate, I was so happy. Like,
As a Leeds fan,
yeah, man, massive. All the chat of them being in a title race, they were back, etc. And don't get me wrong, they have been good this season. They have improved under Eric Ten Hag. But we spoke on this show last week, and I said, for them to be in a title race, they had to beat Liverpool, and for them to go there and not just get beat, but equal the record beating they've ever received. To see Gakpo score, Nunes, who've both been taking a lot of flack this season. And listen, I don't mind Liverpool, and I think it's a look into the future that maybe, that front three that was so potent previously, Mane going, etc., that maybe, Liverpool are onto something here. But it was just glorious to see, mate. I mean, Bruno Fernandes going around, whinging and moaning, which is what he likes to do the majority of the time anyway. As a Leeds United fan, mate, it don't get much better. Like, obviously, we were beaten by Chelsea at the weekend. I sat on here, didn't I say we'd win, but it is what it is. But it sort of made it a little bit all right, because I was like, well, at least they got slapped up, so it's all good. And now they're back in the box a little bit, and they're drawing now at the minute, aren't they? One apiece. So there's all this chatter. Rashford scored after 6 minutes. See, water off a duck's back. Now they're drawing. So yeah, we'll see. And it was great, mate. Thank you.
No problem. It wasn't me that done it personally, Joe. No problem.
You were, mate. You were there. You were the
I was there, and like, genuinely, I've done a couple of shows. I think I've only done one actually since on our own channel, but a really good first half in terms of Liverpool go for 20, United go for about 10, 15. Liverpool scored then just on half time, and you're kind of going, not that it could have went either way. I didn't feel like United were putting massive pressure on Liverpool, but to get the first goal was great. Second half was just, it was like Liverpool just warped themselves back about two years and just went, right, this is what we do. Can you live with what we do? And they couldn't. They simply couldn't. And every time Liverpool were threatening from Manchester United corners, Liverpool were actually threatening. Liverpool were threatening by keeping possession. They were threatening by moving United around. They were threatening on the break. They were threatening in every single way possible. And United just couldn't deal with it. And Jamie, you're a Spurs fan. You probably watched the game Sunday. Yes. And for me, the biggest thing to come out of it is the reaction from people saying, "Oh, United weren't that well." And I seen what's your man's name? Is it Goldstein? Is that his name?
Oh, Goldbridge.
No, the guy on.
Andy Goldstein.
He's basically saying, it's basically like 3-0. Weird stuff coming out. Is that just United just not? I know it's probably hard to accept a defeat like that, but did you feel United just weren't owning this? Because that's what I think. I just don't think they're owning this result.
Yeah, I'll come on to United in a little bit, but I think you've got to give massive credit to Anfield again. I think, there's just something about that ground where...
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. You could just get swallowed up in that sort of fixture. I know from Spurs' perspective, we've been there over the years plenty of times, and we've gone there playing well, and we've just not come away with the result. Maybe a lesser Liverpool team has got a result against us. So there's always something that can happen at Anfield, and it's really interesting hearing the likes of Gary Neville speak about it after the game. He'd been there with Manchester United, a really good Man United team, and got rolled over. I think Mikel Arteta had previously spoken about it as well, where he's gone there, and the game just kind of passes him by. He's in a really good period of his career, and it's just so difficult. So Anfield, just a really big factor there, and I think for Manchester United, very much felt like they got swallowed up. I think credit for Liverpool as well. I've been very critical of Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. It felt like it got to the end for Jurgen Klopp, but I thought they were magnificent against Manchester United. And I think obviously a lot of people saying that Man United was because Man United were poor, but I thought Liverpool's front three were just so good on the weekend. And then defensively, really solid as well. You saw Van Dijk almost back to his best. He's having to come up against one of the most informed players in Europe at the moment, Marcus Rashford, almost kept him quiet. The same with Trent as well. I thought he had a really good game defensively. But as I said, it was the front three that really impressed me. Darwin Núñez, look, obviously a guy who had been brought in to score goals. He's not been quite doing that, but I think his presence is just such an important factor in this Liverpool team. It's a little bit like when Firmino, where obviously was the striker, but he wasn't scoring the goals. But it was just his presence in that team that kind of really made you such a good team. So I think Núñez is certainly starting to settle in now. Gakpo, I thought his second finish kind of epitomised where he's now at in as a player. Really confident finish. It was like a really nice think finish over De Gea. I think that's just a sign of a confident player, and we'll have to see whether they continue. And then Salah, of course, magnificent. So real credit to Liverpool. I think with United, it does show that there's a lot to learn with this team. I think Ten Hag's done a fantastic job, but I think that very much shows that there is quite a long way to go for Manchester United. I think as much as I said, you can get swallowed up by Anfield. To go and lose 7-0 and lose the heads the way they did, I think that was a sign of maybe an inexperienced manager, because we know that this Man United team have got plenty of wise heads. So I think that was maybe coming down to the manager. We've seen it before with Eric Ten Hag, where another Spurs example, of course, was leading that semi-final Champions League tie with Ajax, 2 goals up, and then they managed to go and throw it away. So he's kind of shown that tendency to where maybe his teams can lose the heads. So that's something he does have to learn. So I think a lot of credits to go to Liverpool. I think for Manchester United, obviously, played a lot of games as well. So there is maybe that. But I'm going to be honest, I thought Liverpool were really impressive. And for me, are now the favourites to finish in that top 4.
Yeah, I think they're positioning themselves well with when we're going to hit the last 10 games of the season. But they have a game against Bournemouth at the weekend that you have to, back up that United win with. Joe, we had a big chat last week about the relegation battle and what was going on. Leeds do get beaten by Chelsea narrowly. Everton and Forest game was a cracker, ended 2-2. Not much change down there at the weekend, did it? And it's probably going to be like that till the end of the season. But did you see any? I know it's a narrow defeat against Chelsea, but did you see anything in that? Because Chelsea win in Europe during the week. They beat Dortmund. Did you see anything in the Leeds performance where you thought, no, that they've got to win, didn't they? The week before, they've lost here, but did you think there was good signs?
I was actually frustrated we didn't take anything from the game, mate. I think, we rode our luck in the first half, and I think Joao Felix hits the crossbar, and Melia makes a great save from Havertz. But mad thing was, I watching the game, when they went 1-0 up, like Graham Potter almost threw it away for me. I mean, he just took off any sort of attacking outlet they have and threw a load of midfielders and defenders on and left Havertz up top on his own. And I was thinking, if we could finish our dinner, we'd actually get something from this game. So as a Leeds United fan, it was actually frustrating watching it. But listen, they've got an abundance of talent. As for the relegation fight, I think all that's happened is, Gav, after last week, and we just pulled more people in. I think Leicester are nowhere near out of it. Palace are not out of it. Forest again dropping close. So for me, there's a long way to go on it, and we might see a lot of twists and turns. In fact, normally at this stage, there's at least 2 or at least 1 definitely cut adrift. But at the minute, there's 3 points and stuff. There's
3 points. Leicester in 15th have 24 points. Bournemouth are bottom now on 21 points on goal difference. There's 3 points between them, between 15th to 20th.
Mad.
And they've all played the same amount of games except for Everton, who've played one more than all of them around them. D asks, why is he asking Joe about a relegation battle? Nothing to do with Leeds. I like D's optimism. I really, really do. And to be honest with you, D, at the risk of sounding unprofessional, if Leeds stay up and it means Everton go down, I'm absolutely fine with it. You know, I'm absolutely fine with it. But yeah, they have been dragged in. That point for Forest probably felt that was a big weekend for them. Would have left them on 28 points if they'd have won that against Everton. It left Everton on 21, but you know they're still 4 points ahead of Everton. I think Forest might have seen that as a missed opportunity. But in fairness, Everton, I watched the whole game, and Everton did look improved to me. And the difference was they played the Marty Gray. They had a bit of a threat going forward. He holds the ball well. He has pace. He mightn't be the best striker in the world or the best finisher, but he gives them a threat. Gives them an absolute threat. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like I said, Everton have played a game more than everyone around them, and, you know, the chances are somebody's going to get a win in that game in hand, which will, if it's Leeds, it puts them 3 points clear. But like you said, Joe, like there's nothing in it. No one's being caught adrift, and there's 13 games left.
I think there's 9 teams that could all still go down because, you look at Crystal Palace sat in 12th. You know, they're only 5 points above the bottom 3.
Correct.
So
yeah,
it just and Crystal Palace sat in 12th, but they really feel like a side who could go down. You know, they've had some real struggles this season.
They haven't won, have they? They haven't won.
You know, a lack of goals. I think their record for goals has been really shocking as well. So. Yeah, I look at that table and I think there is plenty of teams that could go down. So yeah, I think it's wide open at the moment, that relegation battle, and I think it leaves it really interesting. What with like 12 games to go or so, I think the title race is obviously going to be interesting, but relegation battle, it's just almost impossible to call at the moment. So very interesting, that one.
Do you know what I might do? For everyone that contributes on this show, us 3, there's the likes of Liam, there was Kevin last week, there was who else was on us last week? Who else was on us, Joe?
We had the City fan and the Man United fan.
Oh, James was on last week.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to get you all to sit down, look at the fixtures, and give me a prediction for the bottom 6 come the end of the season, points-wise, to see who gets closest to it. I might do that during the week. But moving on. Jamie, Spurs.
No, please.
they go out of the cup to Sheffield United, I think, since the last time I've been speaking to you.
Yes.
They lose to Wolves in the league. And then they go out of Europe last night with a draw at home to AC Milan. And the title to this show, the title I put on this show, I'm going to be honest, it is me that asking the question, is Conte on borrowed time, because not only the results, okay, the way he's speaking for me always comes across a bit strange, okay? And then there's a comment here from Rory from earlier, which I kept. He says, "Good evening all. I saw Richarlison's comments today. He didn't hold back on the management of the Spurs coaching setup." Now, they aren't good sounds. They aren't good noises to be hearing, Jamie. Where do you sit on Conte, where they are in the season? Because you wanted them to take the FA Cup really seriously. I thought Milan was a great chance to go through. And Liverpool are coming over the hill here with regards to fourth.
Yes, 100% agree. 100% agree with Liverpool catching us. I said I do think they're now the favourites for that 4th place spot. You've got games in hand as well. You're playing much better than us. I think we're going to lose on the weekend, and not me being reactionary. I think with Antonio Conte, I think it's now reached the point of no return. I think that the Antonio Conte era at Spurs, it's over. Last night, I think, was very much the final straw in the ground. It was, everyone had kind of lost the faith. I went to the stadium yesterday, Champions League knockout game. I was really excited to kind of get behind the team, regardless of how difficult a week it had been for Spurs. After 10 minutes, I'm just absolutely bored out of my mind, and it's so draining to watch that all season, and and then to kind of really want to go and give your support when the team's just offering nothing. It's very difficult to get behind. So yes, it's for Antonio Conte. It's done now. I feel like Spurs are going to be sleepwalking through the rest of the season. I think it's fantastic news this for Liverpool, because, as I said, I definitely think you'll be able to catch us without a doubt. I just can't see us picking up any results now. Regardless of who we have in our team, I look at Nottingham Forest. We should be winning that game. We should be beating Nottingham Forest at home. But as I said, I think that given the past week, what's gone on in terms of getting knocked out of two competitions, and the performances, I just think it's at the point of no return. So yeah, he's got to go now. I said that I think maybe what's stopping them is maybe a lack of a replacement at the moment. There seems to be a long list, but look, they've got to get it right. They've got to get it right. So, maybe they don't want to rush into anything. And that's the only reason I think Conte is still here at the moment. And maybe to do with that compensation and leaving not wanting to pay that. So, yes, it's going to be a really, really difficult end to the season, unfortunately, for Spurs. And yes, I think the Antonio Conte era at Spurs is done, unfortunately.
It's a strange one, more on Richarlison from Rory. He said, Richarlison said, I played versus West Ham and Chelsea, then on the bench versus Wolves. I was asked to take a test in the gym before Milan. Yeah. And if I was good, I would play. But I was on the bench. This season has been shit. And listen, I'm going to be honest. Richarlison likes to run his mouth. Okay, and that's not a Spurs thing. He's running his mouth since he turned up at Everton, right? I'm not too sure about Watford before that, but he likes to run his mouth, whether that's on a social media account or to papers, and he doesn't care who he throws under buses when he does it. Once it's good for Richarlison and it makes him feel better about himself. But if there's anything in that, you're kind of saying to yourself, my immediate thought was, right, Richarlison's not messing about here, and he's probably knows more than, he does know more than we do, and maybe the players nearly know the end is nigh for Conte. But then I'm looking at it going, if it's that bad and Conte goes and it's another new manager in with more new ideas and trying to turn over players, then you're looking at the likes of Harry Kane, who I don't think has signed this new contract, and I think every day I think his chances of playing for Manchester United next season increases every single day. So
I know that Ten Hag is now trying to push for him, and obviously you look at who they've got currently. Weghorst, I think Harry Kane, obviously a fairly similar player, but just on a completely different scale. He offers so much more than what Weghorst would in terms of quality. Does a similar sort of role, but to a much better extent. So I think you're right. I do think Harry Kane's chances of going to Man United are increasing.
It's Joe. We've seen this with Conte. He goes to Chelsea, he wins a title, and then it all goes sour very quickly. He goes to Inter Milan, he wins a title, and it goes sour very quickly. I think he leaves just after he wins a title at Inter Milan. And now we've seen him at Spurs, and I think it was last season they might have lost away to Burnley, and he had an absolute breakdown. And I was like, he's not lasting another week, But it kind of went away, and he got a good run. They got in the Champions League, all this sort of stuff, but. It's just, does it feel like it's just history repeating itself and Spurs keep making this mistake? Yeah,
definitely. Like, especially when you consider we were all saying similar sort of things last season when he said a few things in the press, and you're like, oh, he's not going anywhere. I think I read something today on about Daniel Levy's not. He will sack him if needs be, if the top four's in at risk, and I'm like, but if you're not making the decision now, you're going to be making it when it's already gone for me, Gav. Like, the Liverpool, like you mentioned, are literally there now for me. I think Liverpool will get top four. So what's he waiting for? I don't know. I felt a bit sorry for Conte when I was watching a bit of content and everyone's going, get him out, when he wasn't even there. I know he was still making the decisions, but he's been in hospital and that. So I was a bit like, I don't know. But listen, it's a bit of a terrible show, but it's bigger than Conte, because even if Pochettino was to come back, right, he'd be walking back into a dressing room with the majority of the same heads that were still there when he left, and that's the problem. So Pochettino probably would take it, but what would be the point to work under Levy and Enoch and all them? Because ultimately, I know what Conte's done as well now is, I don't know if you agree, but he's arguably left it in a worse position, because now you've bought, Kulusevski and Bentancur aside, a lot of older heads, do you know what I mean? So it needs even bigger, regeneration now. So the next, I don't know, maybe you look to a Thomas Frank. I seen Steve Cooper having to speak about it in his press today about saying, I'm just focused on Forest. I don't know if Steve Cooper's the right man for it. It's a big step up, but I do like Thomas Frank. But for me, it needs to be someone like that. If I'm Pochettino, I'm like, I'll probably stay away from it, because they say don't ever go back. And like I say, you'll go back in there and it's the same heads. And Yeah, he's been to PSG and stuff, but can he then turn around to Levy and go, well, now I want these players? He never got them before. Probably Levy would be better working with someone who's willing to be a bit more of a, okay, I'll do as I'm told, maybe, because Thomas Frank, I don't know.
I don't even know if it's do what you're told. You see, Pochettino tries to build something at Spurs for me, and he gets to the Champions League final, he loses it, all right? And then they feel like, oh, that's great. You know, not that that's great, but we were really good, weren't we? Let's go again. And they don't really push on. And for me, the appointment that should have been made after Pochettino would have been someone like a Thomas Frank, where you bring them in and you say, look, this is a really good squad we have. We don't mind turning over a few players, but the players we want to bring in, we don't want to go and spend 120 million on 2 players. We'd rather spend 120 million on 4. But they're worth 250 million in 2 years' time combined. Do you know where it feels like to me like Spurs are trying to build off the pitch? They're trying to build with that stadium, and that's what they're doing. But on the pitch, they feel like they just keep looking for the same results or different results, doing the same thing. Whereas if the progression at Spurs for me, if it was there where you said, no, hold on, Thomas Frank, for argument's sake, let's take him as an example. He comes in and he says, okay, I really like the squad. Okay. They hold on to Harry Kane, he signs a contract. Great, we're going to build around him. Kulusevski is good. You know, Mora hasn't been seen. Richarlison, I don't know what you do, but the likes of Bentancur, there's a load of players there that you can work with. And you bring a few in that would be a bit left field. But Liverpool done this. Like, I look at Liverpool and I go, Liverpool done this when it was left field. Mane felt left field. Salah felt left field. You know, and you bring these players in, you kind of go, Oxlade-Chamberlain was left field, but had barring a bad injury against Roma when he was absolutely flying. It worked. Whereas I think it's not matching up for me what they're trying to do off the pitch and on the pitch.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me, Jamie. I could be completely wrong.
You've got Dan Juma as well, right? Is Dan Juma even getting a look?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you what's happening with Dan Juma. But look, I think Spurs, as you said, they've got this transfer model of buying maybe these, as you said, like kind of left field players and maybe developing them up or buying younger players. That's our ethos, and for me, that's absolutely fine. If we want to go, if we have to go and buy players that maybe up
but your current manager doesn't work by that ethos, exactly. So he doesn't match what you're trying to do.
Exactly, and this is where they've gone wrong, because they've got this idea of, you know, that's their transfer model, but then they've appointed managers who are win now managers who don't want the next up and coming players. Then Jose Mourinho wants older, experienced players who know how to win now. Antonio Conte, we all knew, like, why on earth is Conte coming to the club when we just seen Mourinho fail? You know, he's going to want win now players. And they didn't give that to him. And that's what they did with Jose. That's what they did with Conte. They failed to give them the players that are going to go. And you give Antonio Conte ready-made players that are like top level, he will turn them into a top level team. But you give him these younger players who has to develop them and work with them. He doesn't do that. That's not what Conte's about. He's not a guy who's going to come in and develop players. He wants to, as I said, just build a team right now to go and win. He wants to be there for 2 years, win as much as he possibly can. And you know, that's not what Spurs are about. Spurs are a club who have to build. They have to kind of look to build a team progressively. And Spurs completely moved away from that model after Pochettino. And we've just wasted so much time because none of our vision aligns with our manager and transfer policy. And that has 100% been the biggest problem. Daniel Levy, I think, is just absolutely culpable for that in terms of going for managers that are like, as I said, these Mourinhos, these Contes, but sticking with his usual transfer policy. So I just cannot have another like top level manager who's going to want players that are ready to win now. We have to go and get a project manager who's going to be there to build. That's something that I've not liked with Conte as well. Is, you know, he feels like he's coming there and he's just saying all the time that he's doing us a favour. You know, he never really seems committed to the club every time he talks. We love Pochettino because he was totally committed. He totally bought into everything at the club. And I think that's where Spurs have gone completely wrong. They've got this transfer policy set out, but they've gone in a completely different direction with the manager. And I think those two visions not aligning have been why Spurs have ultimately failed.
Yeah, I think as well, when you look at the magnificent stadium that they've built, you know, it's stunning football stadium,
Oh, it's
and
amazing.
it covers football and so much more, and that'll make the money in years to come. But I always look back to when Arsenal built the Emirates, and you're
Yeah.
kind of going, Arsenal are going to struggle financially here because they have to pay that off, and Spurs, I think, have to pay this stadium off, don't they? So it's a tricky business when you're trying to pay all this stuff off and still be competitive. But I think when you're lumping a load of money on a manager like that, a load of money on players that some he wants, some he doesn't, you end up with a massive mismatch within the squad, and then you have to bring a guy in, and you keep turning over, and that's where you start falling behind, because you can't manage finances on one side and keep turning this stuff over on the other and expect everything to level itself up year on year. And that's why I think if I'm a Spurs fan, or of any interest in Spurs, I'm looking and going, if Conte's going to go, and
I
I
want
think
to
he
be
will.
interested first.
No, but like, look, I'm a Liverpool fan. Whatever
Yeah,
happens, Spurs happens. But as a football fan and trying to work out what they should do, I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, don't go back to Pochettino. Don't go to a manager that you just think, oh, he's won loads, hasn't he? Don't do that. Go to somebody where you go, he's taken a club, say from, look, Thomas Frank's the perfect example. He's taken a club from wherever, and it might be in League One, it could be in Championship. He's come up, he's stayed up, and now he's building on it. And you see these players progressing, and they'll start getting cherry picked, these Brentford players, in the next 18 months by different teams. So that's where they should be. They should say, listen, you'll have money, but we want to be able to progress where, don't get us wrong, we're going to be open about it. If you bring in a player for 30 million and 3 years' time he's worth 90, we're going to sell him for 90 because it balances this over here. But at the same time, we'll give you back 50 of it to go and do something else. And I just think it's a balancing act for Spurs that they need to get right with the next appointment. And I know we've probably said that over the last
100%.
2 or 3 appointments, but they really need to get it, because all we're talking about this season is teams progressing and how competitive the Premier League will be next season. And if someone makes a wrong move here, they're in trouble from falling out, whether it's top 4, top 6. That's just my thing on it. Where are we going to go? The weekend. Let's have a look at a couple of fixtures. Joe, Brighton. Tough game.
Yeah, very, very tough. But we're at the stage of the season where we've got to try and get something in every game. They went up and slapped West Ham, didn't they? Which don't fill me with loads of confidence. But one thing I'll say for Grazia, we've defended really well. We've defended really well in the 3 games that he's played. Yes, we've only won 1. 2 wonder strikes against Fulham, and Chelsea score from a set piece. All that's missing is just us scoring goals. Now, by all accounts, Sinisterra and Rodrigo are very, very close. So if them 2 play, you just never know. Mitoma, Solly March, McAllister, they do worry me, but Ellen Road crowd's got to be on it. We've just got to start winning games, Gav. We've got to start winning games, and we have to win at home. It has to become a bit of a fortress. Don't want to be losing this and then having to go away to Wolves next weekend and then thinking, oh God, if we lose this, then we are. We've just got to give ourselves some respite, and hopefully we can win against Brighton. But it's going to be rock hard. De Zerbi's got them playing some great stuff.
I think it's going to be a really good game, though. I think Brighton are really good. Don't get me wrong, but they can have their off days, and I think this is where it kicks in for me, where the Leeds crowd makes a massive difference. They have to be feral at this stage now, Joe, where it's just us against the world, and I think it's going to be a really interesting game. Jamie, Spurs home to Forest.
Yes.
It's a good opportunity to get back on track.
You've got to win that for us, man.
Look, it's the perfect fixture for Spurs because we desperately just need that win. We need to kind of, obviously, after getting knocked out, as we said, not being knocked out of the FA Cup, losing to Wolves, and then obviously losing again to Milan, or drawing and then getting knocked out of the Champions League. It's been a horrible, horrible week. So Nottingham Forest at home, it's the perfect fixture. They've scored 3 times all season away from home. Mm-hmm. They have very much got the worst away form in the league this season. So it has to be a win. But I don't think we're going to win it, and I'm not being like reactionary. I just feel as though the club is now in a position where there's nothing about it. I think the club, there's been too much damage now to this Antonio Conte team and what he's done. It's a point of no return, basically. 15,000 Spurs fans already put their tickets up on the ticket exchange. They don't want to be there. I think there's going to be a really toxic atmosphere on the weekends. It's horrible talking about Tottenham at the moment, and I don't think we'll come up with a win. I mean, I just think Nottingham Forest have been just that bad. I don't think we're going to lose, but I can certainly see it being a draw. Obviously, Brennan Johnson in fantastic form at the moment. Can certainly see him maybe getting on the score sheet. So I'm going to go for a draw here. I'm going to go for 1-1. I just don't think Spurs are going to win this one. And I know a lot of people will think, yeah, absolutely mental. Maybe not, because we are really bad. But I'm just saying.
Would Levy sack him, Jamie, if he did not win this game? I know you want him sacked, but would Levy, though?
I see. For me, I think what they're waiting for potentially, and all I can kind of see is getting that next manager right. I think that they know that they've got to do that. I don't think they want to rush into anything, and I don't want them to rush into anything.
I think it's until he mathematically can't make top 4, and then he goes.
Yeah,
because he probably has it written in his contract.
There might also be the fact that thinking about it, Ryan Mason, he's definitely a guy who could come in and maybe do the job for the rest of the season if it does get really that bad. He's done the interim role before and he did okay, actually. I remember he came in and did okay. I'm not saying, it's obviously an ideal situation, but Antonio Conte being the manager is completely, it's done, I said. So, yes, maybe we could get Ryan Mason in charge and they wait till the end of the season to get in a proper manager. But I think if he wasn't to get a result on the weekend, I think Daniel Levy would probably... I think he probably would sack him, to be fair. Yeah. I'll be totally honest. I think he probably would.
Do I need to take the captaincy off Kane then from a fantasy Premier League?
I wouldn't. Kev O'Sullivan says the international break could be the decider. A lot of clubs do make moves around that. I fancy Spurs to win this. I actually fancy them to win a handy.
Kev on screen, he's just highlighted my captaincy pick for the weekend. I'm telling you right now, I mean, I could be wrong. Stay away from Kane. Stay away from Harry Kane. We're not creating... See, the problem is we're just not creating any chances. We could have been still playing the game right now. 24 hours on, we could have continued playing that game. We would not have scored a goal.
Okay. After watching Forest at the weekend, I think they're quite good going forward. Brennan Johnson is a quality player, by the way. He won't be at Forest next season, in my opinion. But at the back, they're all over the place. Rash challenges, simple balls into the box. Was it Onana scored there? DeCorley, one of them. DeCorley. And he just wanders into this position. It's a loop of balls just wandering into the 6-yard box, and he just goes in and heads it in. I think Forest are a bit all over the place at the back, and I think it's actually a game for me. I disagree massively with you. I think it's a game for Harry Kane where he gets in those little half spaces in the box and just scores loads of goals. I honestly do. I think that's where Harry Kane earns his living, where he's just in those positions where defenders are unsure and he scores. But listen, anything could happen. But I think this might be the weekend. I think this might be the weekend where Spurs get back on track. Liverpool go away to Bournemouth, who were 2-0 up at Arsenal last weekend, lost 3-2. Arsenal, just touching on it quickly, Arsenal seems to be running on fumes here at the minute, and adrenaline, where they're winning games, but it's like, Jesus, are really pushing it here. City cruising for me at the weekend. Yeah. Arsenal go away to Fulham, which is not going to be easy. It's another big weekend at the top. But Liverpool have to back up that win against United with a win against Bournemouth, because I think we'll get very close now where the games in hand will disappear, because after the international break, Liverpool go away to City, away to Chelsea, home to Arsenal, 3 games in a row, so it's a huge week when they come back. But it's a good weekend. United host Southampton. There's other bits and pieces going on, but I still think Spurs will be alright. Joe, I spoke to you about Leeds and Brighton. Let me run through a few of them then, and I just want home win, away win, draw. All right, I'll give you 3. Leeds, Brighton.
Home win.
Yes. Bournemouth, Liverpool.
Away win.
Okay. Man United, Southampton.
Home win.
Okay. Jamie, couple for you. Yep. Fulham, Arsenal.
Away win, unfortunately.
Okay. Everton, Brentford.
No, away win. I think, Brentford playing really well at the moment. Definitely away win for me.
Okay, and I'm going to give you a second chance. Spurs Forest.
Oh wait, no, draw. I'll go draw. I'll go
They're staying
draw.
draw. Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I look silly, but I'm telling you, I do think that it's got to the end, and I think it could get a little bit embarrassing in the weekend. I can't lie, so I'm going to go for a draw in that one.
Okay.
If them results come in though, Leeds will have had a brilliant weekend. We'd be like, they'll be in 15th.
Well, if Liverpool were to beat Bournemouth, Brentford were to beat Everton, Leeds were to beat Brighton. Who else is down there? Who else are we talking about?
Spurs to beat Forest.
Spurs to beat Forest.
Man United to beat Southampton.
We'll have Joe will be on next week telling us about a push for the Europa League.
You, Joe, the one thing you don't want to do, the one thing you don't want to have to do, Joe, is have to rely on Spurs. That's the only thing you don't want to have to do.
I will agree with you on that.
I apologise.
They don't call us Spursy for nothing. Right, look, we're going to leave everyone there. We've done our we said 35, didn't we? And we're bang on 35, so we're the best boys this week. Look, it's been a lovely chat as always. If you're watching, hit the like button, subscribe, go and check out the Daily Hotspur on Twitter. Go and check out Wayne and Joe on Twitter, and you'll find the links to everything else that they do. That's the easiest way to put it. Like, subscribe. Thanks for the comments. Leave comments afterwards if you're watching it back and you have any input on what you want to see us talk about every week or whatever way. If you want to see us do little segments, we're open to anything. It's a free for all every Thursday at 9 o'clock. So wherever we can get on, we get different lads on different clubs, and we can talk about anything you like in 35 to 40 minutes. So that has been the Premier League preview show with Bookmakers TV. Talk to you soon.